Good evening and welcome to another episode of Prime Focus, a program that spotlights issues that are of concern to individuals, families, and communities with a view to garnering support, highlighting issues, and then taking positive action. Thank you for joining us again tonight. And for those of you who will watch the video later on, please make sure you share this video. This is a very important subject indeed, as each of our episodes are. But tonight is very, very important because for the first time, we have a panel that will be sharing exciting things with us. When I say exciting, things that is going to change each and every one of our lives and the people that we know. Tonight, we're going to be looking at domestic violence. And once again, I welcome you to Prime Focus, another episode tonight. And I'm going to start by introducing our audience or our panelist. Our panelist. And audience, thank you for joining as well. And please make sure, as I said, share the link with other people and also subscribe so you don't miss any of our subsequent episodes. Let me start by introducing the first guest. That's going to be Nova Abiona, and I'll like the electronic introduction do its work, and then once I've got Nova in, then we'll invite the other ones as well into the studio.
Dr. Nova Simoy Abiona, D.D., is an award-winning relationship and business coach with an apostolic stance. She has authored 3 books, including the #1 international bestseller, Time to Go. Dr. Nova is the CEO and founder of Real Fulfillment International, the umbrella company for the Warrior Queen movement that includes wifepreneurs, the Wise Wife community, and My Choice Marriage. Known as the Relationship Change Catalyst, Dr. Nova supports others with business-life balance and harmony, enhancing your marriage, help for abusive marriages, accountability that works, learning how to triumph over life difficulties and trauma. Dr. Nova is proud to be a Trinidadian. She migrated to the UK in 2000 to escape from her abusive ex-husband. Since then, she has spent over 20 years teaching and acting as a facilitator to help resolve conflicts, restore broken relationships, and in so doing, transforming homes and lives. Dr. Nova has been happily married to her amazing Nigerian husband, Dr. Soji Abiona, for over 18 years. Together, they are raising their 3 ambition-driven daughters. She says that faith is an integral part of her life and accomplishments.
Thank you, audience. As we welcome Nova. Nova, you're very welcome. Dr. Nova, thank you so much for joining us. You and I have been talking for a while, and finally I've gotten to pull you out from a bit of your busy schedule to join us tonight. And I know you're raring to go with a lot of information. But before we do that, I'm going to invite our next panelist also to come in. So we're going to have a full time. Now, you guys are in for a very exciting time. Even if we had one speaker, this is going to be phenomenal. But truly, because we have 3, is going to be monumental. So please share the link with other people. So I'm going to invite Ibironke to come in as well. Ibironke John. And look, I'm so super excited because the stories of these people are so gripping. That's the best way I can put it. And I know you're going to benefit from it. They'll tell you later about their resources. So let me introduce Ibironke again with the electronic introduction.
Ronke John, described by many who meet her as resilient with great tenacity. Ronke, as she is more commonly known, unites her professional background in social work and probation with her lived experience of overcoming 13 years of domestic violence in which she took the bold step to flee for safety. She is a bold advocate and voice for women and men who have experienced the turmoil of shame, guilt, and fear in matters of protecting their children and themselves in the face of opposition from family and faith communities. Ronke is the founder of Empower to Transform Lives Limited and author of Love Broke the Silence under the pseudonym Serena Peters.
Ronke, good evening to you, and thank you also for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you. I see you have a domestic violence background there. I guess you're allowed to do that. No plagiarism here. But thank you again for joining us. Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mm. Awesome. The audience, I know you're getting warmed up, but let's do this quickly because there's so much to talk about tonight. I'm going to invite the third but not the least speaker, and that's Fumi Adewumi. Oh my goodness, you are in for something. I'll tell you a little bit more about what happened with me when I realized she had a book and what that book did to me, made me set a record. But I'm not going to say anymore. I'm just going to let the electronic introduction do it.
Fumi Adewumi, fondly called Selective Fumi, is the founder of Selective Life, a UK organization that helps women over the age of 45 who feel stuck or lost in marriage, motherhood, or a myriad of life challenges to navigate through personal barriers to rediscover and live their true and desired life. Fumi is a trained counselor, mental health advocate, and an independent domestic abuse awareness advocate. Fumi's varied skill sets include business and finance, a psychosocial degree, and a diploma in education and training. The latter two fueling her interest in mental health and enhancing her love for impacting people at different levels and stages in life. Fumi's personal experience of domestic abuse led her on a journey of discovery, launching her into the world of life coaching and neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and more recently into counseling and psychotherapy. She is the author of I Am Better Than This and an ambassador for Women's Aid Organization.
Fumi, thank you for joining us today. Wow.
Thank you for having me.
Right. I have three amazing people here, Dr. Nova, Ronke, and Selective Fumi, as she likes to be called. Wow. As I said, I read your books. Nova, I think I read your book a few years ago. I
Yeah.
learned so much from reading it that I thought I knew about abuse until I read that book. And then it taught me so much. And then, Ronke, I remember when I started reading your book, I called you. I'm like, I can't put this book down. It was even getting dark, and I couldn't recognize it was getting dark. And I was like, wow, what a story. And then Fumi, just about less than a week ago, I saw you had this book. I'd heard about it before, but I hadn't had the opportunity. I quickly ordered it on Amazon. I didn't even want a PDF copy. That's how eager I was to read the book. And I got it. And I remember at home, and we're like, what's keeping you so gripped? I said, I'm reading something. I can't put it down. So thank you so much for all of you in your busy schedules for coming tonight. But let's start very quickly with a couple of questions. Some people would ask, domestic violence, domestic abuse, what exactly is this? Because I've been involved in counseling people in little ways, maybe not to the extent that you people do it because that's your specialty. And some people, you talk about being abused, physically insulted in front of children, all that. I wanted to find, are all those things part of domestic abuse and violence, or is it something else? So over to you. I don't
Uh,
know who
I,
wants to go first. Yes.
I don't mind. I could get
Yeah.
started.
a lot of times when you hear, well, first of all, I should say thank you for having me. I forgot that. Like, I forgot my manners. No. Yeah. So thank you
No,
so
no
much for
worries. I
having
didn't
me.
even recognize that.
It's wonderful to be here, especially with these lovely ladies who we're all thrivers. So that's beautiful. Yeah, I was going to say that when you hear people talk about domestic abuse in the wide context and domestic violence, many times on the news they're talking about the same thing because that's the way the news talk about it. So um, people tend to think that by hearing the both of them used interchangeably, that it means that domestic abuse is only about violence when that's not the case. So sometimes the media is not being helpful by doing that. Because if they educate people on the fact that there are so many different types of domestic abuse and domestic violence, as in violence is one part of it, it helps because then there is the psychological part, the financial part, things like harassment, digital abuse, spiritual abuse, sexual abuse, so many different ones. Yeah, but as I said, society hears the both names used so interchangeably that they could be confused, thinking that if he doesn't hit me or she doesn't hit me, that then it's not abuse, and then so they find it hard to say anything about it. I'll stop there and give the other ladies a chance to chime in as well.
Yeah, so
Right.
I can go next.
Right.
So, domestic abuse is something that happens between two intimate partners. And I know we are from the faith background, but it's also considered between gender and gender. So it could be two people who are in a lesbian relationship, when you know. So, but generally, that's what it is. It's not referring to abuse or violence that happens between, um, let's say a sibling, hitting at their parents. That's not what we're talking about. Where there's intimacy, they could still be in a relationship, or they may no longer be in a relationship, but it continues. And like Dr. Nova said, it encompasses so many aspects. There is the psychological, physical. There's the technical has been the high one, but I'm sure maybe Fumi is going to speak. So I don't want to say too much. There's economical as well and spiritual. But I will stop there so that I can let Fumi take over.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Focus. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here with amazing women, thrivers, like we call ourselves. Yes, I would say that domestic abuse, like you explained earlier, is not always physical. There are different forms of abuse that is so encompassing that, and now the definition it is preferred to use abuse rather than use violence, because a lot of people mistaking that to be just physical abuse, because there are different, so many forms of abuse, like you have mentioned, digital, female genital mutilation. There are so many. I can go on and on and on. It involves, it includes, it could be a single incident, or it could be a pattern of incidents that involves controlling, intimidating, threatening, anything that makes the other person feel less than who they are is classed as abuse. When there is threat, when there is degrading, when there is, violent behavior or not, when you are threatening someone, when you are stalking them, when you are making them fear or feel less of who they are, is classed abuse. And it happens within a close-knit relationship, within the home confine of a home. It could be between partners. It could be between mother and son. It could be within where there is a relationship. It could be within a family unit. It could be between ex-partners, and it could be ex-partners or current partners. It doesn't matter. So,
Wow. Okay, so that's quite a broad thing. Of course, the most important thing in our focus tonight is it happens in families. It happens in the domestic environment, which is crucial. And I guess we're also looking at it more from the adult perspective and not maybe the children. That's right. Thank you for those clarifications there to all three of you. Thank you so much for that. I was going to put up something on my screen just in case you have your phones on or something. If you could maybe put the audio off so that there's no echo in the background. Yeah, but I was going to put up a statistic here, but it doesn't really matter. It just showed a graph I picked from the United Nations, and it showed across the spectrum of the world where domestic violence was taking place. And when I was doing my initial research, it talked about what was happening in the UK, what was happening in America, what has happened in the UK just in the last 12 months. Unbelievable. And then in America. But as stark as that statistic looked like, I realized that it paled in comparison to what is happening in other parts of the world. You know, you look in places like Africa, South Asia, the Middle East, parts of Latin America, you look at the Pacific Islands, it's so much. And my question is, why is it so prevalent? What cause why should it be like that?
It's I'll go first. Yeah, there are a number of factors causing that. I'm not sure where that noise is. It's not by my background, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest thing is lack of control. When someone feels as though they have to act on impulse, so whatever they feel like doing, they do it without thinking about the repercussions on other people. That is one of the big issues. Of course, anger issues as well, which goes into the same thing. Because even if you are angry, it doesn't mean that because you're angry, you have to lash out or hurt somebody else in the process. Of course, there's also where people don't have the opportunity to get the proper education and knowledge and training about what is right and what is wrong. So in their culture, they might encourage it, condone certain things. And because of that, people think it's all right. And even if later on you hear what you're doing is not right, because you are in the habit of doing something, it is very hard for you to just stop because somebody says it. Many times, interestingly, what could cause somebody to stop is when something happens closer to home to somebody that they love. And then they realize, wait, if somebody is doing this to my mother or my sister or my whatever, and I am doing that to somebody else, yeah, especially if the person end up dying or something like that, that is when it kind of comes home to them. And I've interviewed a couple people actually who had that experience where they were abusers, and one of them in particular, his sister was killed, and that was enough for him to realize, okay, what I'm doing is wrong. So yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you. Wow. To that extent. Okay.
I think there are so many reasons, and I think we could be here for a long time. Because if you look at the various forms of abuse which we've gone through, so we've talked about psychological abuse, emotional abuse, and sometimes those of us from, I would say, from an African or an Asian background might not really understand the depth of that. So I think it's worthwhile giving an example. It's like, for example, the verbal, abusing somebody, saying things about them that is not true. But it's also being destructive sometimes to their property, making threats. It could take another manifestation of that, or another way of means of that is, for example, especially amongst the Western culture. I mean, I happen to love pets, but people who have a pet, for example, the perpetrator may take the pet and harm the pet. There's so many forms. So if I take into consideration the psychological, the economical, the physical, all the other forms of technical economic abuse, I would say there's so many reasons, but I think some of the reasons that are being flagged up that are causing a lot of concern is mental ill health, sorry. It's not an excuse, but it's become a reason. Obviously, taking substances, illegal substances, drugs, and also alcohol, misuse of alcohol, trained, maybe they were exposed to domestic violence. And instead of deciding, unlike the example Nova just gave, instead of deciding, well, I will not be like this, I will get help, they follow the same pattern. Sometimes religious beliefs and rituals perpetrate this as well. And we know so many cases. Sometimes it's tradition and culture. And so certain cultures that say, he's a man, just, just manage his anger, has got a little bit of anger problems. So, and I wouldn't necessarily agree that someone who has a learning disability is going to have that problem, but sometimes there might be some learned behaviors that have to be unlearned. So, so I would say that might come in, not because the person has a disability, don't misunderstand me, but I'm just saying there could be so many reasons. Those are the 5 reasons. And yeah, some people are just bad. You can't just explain it. They've just got something that makes them want to do things that hurt another person.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. Great stuff. Fumi, did you want to add to that? Or
Sure. I would like to come from the angle of it's a intergenerational issue. This is an historical, it has an historical genesis to how this started. It's been with us for before 17th century. And when there is, when there is an interplay of psychological and social factors, there is always imbalance of power. Where there is imbalance of power, abuse becomes inevitable. There is no way. So between sexes, when there is power imbalance, there is going to be abuse. Where one person feels superior than the other, we live in a patriarchy society where men feel I'm superior. And if your upbringing or the way you've been raised is you're superior than the other, there is going to be abuse. Abuse becomes inevitable. It becomes some people's reality. It becomes like, I can get away with it. And, they feel like I can always have what I want. You do what I say. This is what I want. This is how I want it. And they believe women should be subservient. Women should be, and going towards, I think Ronke mentioned that societal, religious beliefs, cultural, depending on your beliefs, because all these forms societal, construct societal beliefs, religious, family, and faith is another big one. So all these things determine our behaviors within the society. It determines if it's acceptable or it is not acceptable. And another thing, point I would like to raise is a lot of society puts responsibility on the victims, and putting responsibility on the victims, they believe that it is up to them to the onus is on the victims to take responsibility and to flee abuse and to confront the perpetrators. So all the responsibility is put on the victims and not the perpetrator. So all these things, makes it prevalent. And also it happens within closed door, like we said. So because it's happened within closed doors, there is a research that said that some people felt, some people would always think they don't want to get involved in private issues. They don't want to be involved. That's for the government to get involved. So it depends on how society views abuse. If they feel like it's something they want to get involved with, it's something they want to they want to be part of, or they want to flag out. If it is acceptable within the society, then it becomes because everybody just frowns at, if it's not frowned at, then everybody just continue doing their own business.
right. Yeah. So obviously there are very clear issues there that needs to be addressed, and I like the exegesis you've given about it. I mean, going back historically, the different things. But let's come to a very important aspect here. Why you are here, not just because you are thrivers. Well, because you're thrivers, but what's the story behind that? And I think our audience would certainly want to pick up something from there that could be helping somebody they know, if not themselves. So, Nova, I'm going to ask you in a few minutes. I mean, if you can tell us your story and what happened and how it ended as well. And then we'll come to Ronke and Fumi as well.
Okay, so I'll keep an eye on the time to make sure I don't go too far. But I know you'll also press mute if I'm going too long. um, yeah, so for me, the abuse started actually when I was courting, but I didn't realize because, of course, hindsight is 2020. So my ex was when he was my boyfriend was playing a lot of mind games, so to speak, and emotional abuse in terms of the things that he would say. Because I was naive, so to speak, I grew up in church, and I met him, and he was a little more streetwise than me. And so, if he says something, I thought is you're telling me the truth. So if he says that somebody has said something about me, or people are telling lies and this and that, I would believe it. So anyway, with all of that in mind, when we were courting, first of all, he began to pull me away from people in the things that he was saying, telling me about how, as I said before, somebody has said something about me, or somebody threaten him and say, leave me alone, and all these other things. And of course, first it sounds like, wow, why would people say something like that? And I am trying to kind of defend, like, people are telling lies and blah, 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 which they were based on what he was saying. Anyway, after a while, so we caught it for 3 years and a half, but after a while I began to think some of these things, just it doesn't make much sense to me. No, I, even though I used to pray, my relationship with God, um it was uh good but not great. So hearing and knowing the voice of God really clearly and being sure that this is what God is saying wasn't at the forefront of my mind. What I thought was that all things will always work out. If it looks positive, then it must be positive and God must be in it. And that was something that I was kind of embracing, because other people were saying things like that as well. But when I started to think something doesn't look good, I went to people who gave me the wrong advice, to be honest. And these were people who I considered spiritual leaders, spiritual people who had um, spiritual authority in my life. And because they were not experts in domestic abuse, domestic violence, and stuff, when they say something and it sounds as though they're saying it from a place of knowledge, I took it as though, you know what they're saying is true. So they said things like, oh, he's just, don't worry, he's a very nice person, and those sort of things. So I began to put my guard down because of what they were saying. But then we got married, went on honeymoon, and on honeymoon is when I began to realize things, water more than flour, as we say in the Caribbean, because he, first of all, the emotional abuse and stuff got a little worse. And then he started with the threats for other people. One simple incident happened where a guy saw me and said Nubian princess. Now it was a whole long thing that led to him playing football on the beach. He didn't want to take me on the beach on honeymoon, which was a whole crazy thing. But when we went there, some guy he was passing and he saw me and he said Nubian princess, and took my hand and kissed it. I was surprised. And I was like, what kind of madness is this? But my ex did not see anything. And after the guy left, my ex came after he played his football. That was what the beach, us on honeymoon, that's what the beach situation was. I didn't go in the water or anything like that. That was it. But when I told him, he's like, oh, he got so angry and started to show like he was crying. And then he reached into his leg and pulled out this big hunter knife and said he was going to kill the guy. So, of course, me, I stand up there and I'm crying. I'm like, oh no, you don't want to get your death and and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, to myself that what I've done, I've stopped him from doing something crazy. But all of that was a part of the drama and the antics. And after a while, when we got home back into the relationship, it turned from what he could do to people if they do anything to me to what he wanted to do to me. And what he could do to me and how he could kill my family and he could kill me. And so we went from the emotional abuse. After a while, he wasn't saying it, only he started the hitting and the pushing and the different things. And then it went on to sexual abuse, which carried on for a long time. And you might be thinking sexual abuse in marriage. At the time, there was one incident that was really, really bad, that it was outright forcible rape that I thought that was the only one that I thought was rape, until again hindsight I realized how many times when I am sleeping he's doing things to me that shouldn't be, because I didn't give any consent. And when I open my eyes, he's pretending he's sleeping. It was, I don't want to go into too much because some young people could be listening as well. But I'm just saying there are a lot of things that happen in marriage that people think is okay, that is not okay. And so that went on for a while. I took and took for 3 years. And then after I said something, the reaction that I got when I said it made me very nervous. So I didn't say anything for another 3 years, until I started praying and talking to God and say, Lord, like, what is my life? Really, like, what is this that I'm dealing with here? And I was planning to come to the UK on holiday with my ex. And by then I had one child. And after all the planning and everything, one day I heard really strongly, because I was asking God to, I was like, Lord, like, I want your name to be glorified. In this whole situation, I want your name to be glorified. Of course, me in my head, I'm thinking, you know what will happen? God is going to miraculously turn things around. My husband is going to supernaturally change and everybody's going to see. And mind you, with all of this, he was going around praying, prophesying accurately to people and everything. So people had one idea of who he was. When he's home, he's cursing, he's telling me everything that is bad under the sun. And after a while, one day the Lord just said to me, Nova, time to go. Hence the name of the book, Time to Go. So that was a nice plug in there, isn't it? Yeah. So when I heard that, when you just, the fear of God gripped me, and I just made sure that he was sleeping. I went out, I locked the door, and I told my auntie, I'm coming to the UK, but it would be me and the baby alone. And after that, I had to make plans for coming out. And when you tell people that you're leaving, it might seem like it has to be done quickly. For me, it took 3 months for me to pack and do everything. So I had to be wise in what I was doing at that time. Be very strategic, be careful that I don't ruffle any feathers and cause him to get really mad, because what was happening is, especially the physical, he would do things, especially when people are not looking, or pretend to be nice in front of people. And as soon as somebody turned their back, or while we're there, every minute he's calling me, Nova, could talk to you for a minute. Nova, could talk to you for a minute. Sometimes we're in a conversation about 10 times. I have to go inside to hear, and he's calling me for nonsense. So after a while, you're like, Nova, if you do something or you say something that is the wrong thing, it could lead to you getting your debt. Or I can't take it anymore, and who knows, I might have been the one that decided this is enough. And so I had to be wise and strategic, so that when I left, I never had to go back. And that is what I did. I organized everything, came to the UK to study with my daughter, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Awesome. Wow. I mean, when I think about it, that whole planning of a flight or escape or whatever it was, that was something else. Now, just so that sometimes people, you mentioned a couple of things interesting there, that you're pressing of faith. And so there may be people who sometimes think, okay, God's answer to this is, okay, he's going to let the person change. But what if the person doesn't change? What if he remains the same year after year after year, and you just, or like some family people will tell you, oh, just keep enduring, everything's going to be fine. Would you say that who the person who wears the shoes know where it pinches them? So it gets to a point where you've got to reason so you don't lose your sanity or your life, as the case may be.
Yeah, but for that, 6 or 1 and a half a dozen of the other, because sometimes your shoe pinching you, but you think that's the way it's supposed to be, because beauty pains. And so you could be taking something and not realizing that what you're doing is not just damaging you, If I had stayed there, I would have been damaging my daughter as well. Other people who began to see things are happening, is damaging their perception of what a good marriage is also. So it's really important that we begin to, for those of us who know, educate people on what is right and what is wrong. And if you see something happening, also wisely say something. You might be able to say something in front of them. Like I remember there was one young lady, little things our husband was doing. I thought, this isn't right. This is a very educated man who has a great paying job in this country. And the things that he was doing, she had to talk on speakerphone every time. When he is going to work, he is taking her phone to work with him and those sort of things. All of those things, it's abuse. And so if I led her to the book, she read the book, and that is when, after, she came back crying, saying that she just realized that she's being abused. She didn't realize before. And this is why people need to understand that violence is not the only way. And so for me, um what I didn't get then, I try to pass on to people now. I want people to be knowledgeable. I want them to know, you don't, like, when I got married, I was a virgin. I kept myself, and you think these things are brownie points. Because of that, this thing will work. It does not work like that. It does not work like that. You get married to a maniac is a maniac, no matter how you are. So, yeah, I'll stop there.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Wow. Interesting points there. There'll be some questions coming up later. But I want to come to you, Ronke, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Maybe you want to say something as well there. Everybody's story is always different. There may be some touch points that are the same. So over to you, Ronke.
Yes. So where do I start? I was already a vulnerable person, which meant that I didn't really understand what love was because I came from a dysfunctional family. And when you look at why some women don't leave or why they stay and why they go from one relationship to another where they get beaten or other things happen, is sometimes because they've already come from a dysfunctional home. So I was raised in a violent home. My biological father was violent. And if you read my book, you'll find out more. And I became a professional. Became a social worker, but I majored more in working in probation. With probation, you work with offenders, and you normally work around helping them, if they want to address their behavior, their offending behavior. So I believed in change, and as a Christian, I did it. I'm of a faith. I do believe in, that God can get through to people and things like that. So my story was that my ex-husband, he never actually hit me. And believe it or not, it seems so silly, but I was in the cycle, even though I was helping other people. Actually, I actually helped a friend of mine. I wish she could have come, who is, gone on to have a great career. And I actually helped her, during her time. I was able to counsel her. So it just shows you the seriousness of domestic abuse, the kind of deception that can go into it, how you can also be the nurturer, the carer, helping others, and you're not seeing it yourself because of the trauma. So especially if you've experienced trauma, it explains why you may not recognize it for yourself, because you can dissociate yourself from it. You can say that's them and I can help them as a professional. I'm doing good. But you're not recognizing that you yourself, you are entitled to self-worth. I think from somebody has to speak about I'm worthy. I think I saw some, and that's the bottom line. So for me, I really thought I knew what self-worth was, and I did not know what self-worth was. So the domestic abuse took the form of violence against the children in the name of chastisement. And that's a very big one, because how do you stand in to protect your children when you come from a traditional home? My family raised us with a lot, my father was very, like I said, very violent, a lot of beatings. How do you now take the stand? So what my ex did was to say, Ronke, mind your business, get out of my way. Don't bring your westernization into this marriage. You bring your social work into it. And my family at that time backed him up. I was also attending a church, and it was, even though our pastor wasn't Nigerian, but most of the congregation were Nigerian, and we're all friends. And this is where I bring your nature, your personality into it. My personality nature is that I can be very, I fight for justice, but I can also be very quiet and withdrawn. But my ex wasn't like that. He's very vocal, was well regarded, well respected. And, I think some of that persona came into it. So basically, when he said things that were really bad, when he was mentally very abusive, that was affecting me mentally, and I tried to explain to people, they would say, "Oh, forgive him, Sister Ronke." Those were the great words, Sister Ronke. Now forgive him, forgive him. And at that time, I hadn't processed the difference between forgiveness and moving away and protecting yourself. And I can hear what Nova said. Then I had some wake up calls from God Himself. And thank God for those who have a faith who can know that God is a God of love. He doesn't like divorce because there can be pain in it, but He also hates the pain that violence and abuse brings to the perpetrator, to the victim. The perpetrator himself doesn't want him to go and do things, and to the children or anybody else. So when this continued and it took the form of, like I said, verbal abuse, twice I think my car was damaged, and it was like, go and sort it out. So remember, I never touched you. And I remember one day I said, you were violent. I said, no, have I ever touched you? You can't call me violent because I've never touched you. So I started to process that, and I realized, well, you're touching the children. Till one day, he, in the name of beating the children, because one of the children didn't get their mask correctly. The child, ran. I heard him say, "Mommy," where he was getting beaten, and he grabbed the child down, and he said, "Today I will beat you that your mother will cry." When I heard those words, I realized that what was happening was that he wasn't beating me physically, but he was using this anger and traditional rights, so to speak, to the children to get at me. And that I saw that happening. And to one day, the Lord kind of let me know that, if anything happens to your children, I'll hold you to account. And I had to see that this person I married as a Christian, he was lying. There was something he did. Again, it was all to do with beating the children. It was not normal. It wasn't like taking a cane, daddy's going to beat you. It was biting you, punch, you kick, knock, throw, all sorts of things. And it was done with another person in the house who was not Nigerian. And she heard the reports and she said, if you don't talk to social services, I will. And I asked him, he said, I didn't do anything. I didn't lift a finger. So based on those things, I recognized then that I was dealing with someone that was capable of committing something, a very serious thing, and would get away and plead diminished responsibilities. And the toll on me was coming because I had left him before, when I felt I couldn't take the mental abuse. And I was having dreams, nightmares. The children was having dreams and nightmares. My eldest son at the time, he's a young man now, thank God, was saying, Mom, this is not a home. I can't. And I thought, this is why children go into gangs. Because if home is not your home, then the streets would be the home. And so becoming a probation officer, I changed jobs eventually because I wanted to get financial. Finance was also a problem. I didn't have the financial freedom. And so all these things came into it. And I didn't have the support from any family, nothing, no children, nothing at this time. But like Nova did, I didn't leave one day. I had to plan it. And I went to a fellowship to see how much God was fighting for us. I went to a fellowship, a woman fellowship, and somebody had what you call a word from God. I said, there's somebody, God may be saying you to leave your husband. And I knew that word was for me. So with all that coming into it, I just realized I had to make those steps steadily, found a place to go. And eventually, I left despite the threats that he was making. But it was not easy to leave. I couldn't confront him because I knew because of pride. I knew that if I said, I'm leaving you, I'm taking my bag, I wouldn't be alive, or he wouldn't be alive, because I didn't know who would. Because the other side of me is that I also felt that I was capable of defending. If I had to, I knew I wouldn't think about what I was doing. So the poison, the toxicity in the home is what women should consider. If you are having thoughts that are so serious, or the other person is saying, then that is not a thriving environment anymore. And it's not a matter of saying, I forgive you, or I'll get over it. So I will stop there for now.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. That's so insightful. I like the bit of bringing in maybe part of what you do now. I didn't realize that part actually, that you were even already in the field and all these things were happening. So even though you were there, that did not stop anything as well. Thank you so much. Selective for me. Let's come to you. What's the story?
Okay. My story, I would say that I was married before, and I was, I was a single mother for about 15 years. And I thought, oh, I found love again. So I got married again after 15 years of being separated from my first husband. So I was a bit matured. I was, well, close to 50 then. So I thought, yes, I'm going in with, with my head screwed on and all of that. So it happened so quickly. It was good for the first 6 months. Everything was hunky dory. But shortly after 6 months, the love bombings phase easily phased out. And there was a lot of silent treatment, was like the order of the day. I just couldn't understand what was going on. And like we said, abuse is not always physical. It was strictly emotional. The physical didn't come in until like the last day when everything ended. And there was gaslighting, there was guilt tripping, there was verbal abuse, I was belittled. It just made me feel like I lost myself in the process. I couldn't understand what was going on. And the good girl syndrome, I just keep trying. I just keep trying to make everything better. I just wanted to do everything. The usual me, like to please people, like to make people happy. That is my, and I thought that maybe if I could do something, maybe if I could, so I keep shifting the goalpost and I keep trying everything I knew how to do, but nothing changes. The more I try, the worse it becomes. It was short-lived. It was about 2.5 years, just less than 2.5 years. And I can tell you that 18 months out of that, it was not talking to me at all. And I couldn't understand what was going on. There was a lot of financial abuse. I started doubting myself because I'm like, but this happened and it was twisting everything. And I'm like, this is not real. So I got a book and I started writing things down so that I can prove that this is what really happened. And the worst thing is if you show him the book and he would ignore it. And at the end of the day, I just keep saying to myself, this is not real. And I did what I knew how to do best. I just continued to pray. I continued to pray. I got a prayer partner. I just continued to pray fast 100 days, 70 days. I was just praying and praying and praying. And it got to a stage I said to myself, no, I'm not doing this anymore. God is not a wicked God. I am not serving a wicked God. I am very practical. And I said to God, God, I was reading all the Bible passages. I was doing, you go to this, then I was in Nigeria. You go to this prayer meeting, they will say, pray, read read this psalm. I kept doing that. And I said to God, God, you are not a wicked God. I am not created for this. My children depends on me. People, I have lives that depends on me. I have a purpose to fulfill on earth. So I was very practical and I said to God, and something came to my spirit. God said to me, wisdom is a principal thing. In all thy getting, get wisdom. And in all thy getting, get understanding. And I said, but I'm digging deep. I'm doing all the research. I'm reading more. I'm learning more about all these things. And it says, get understanding. Get understanding. And I thought to myself, get understanding. And something spoke to my spirit and said, the Holy Spirit said to me, get a professional. And I'm like, get a professional. I'm in Nigeria at the moment. Where am I going to get a professional that really knows what they're doing? I don't like to just go to anybody. And that led me into, I went to church just for a church program. And at this point, I had contemplated suicide. I was depressed. People looked at me and it's like they just couldn't recognize me anymore. I've, you know, I just became stuck. I, a part of me hate injustice. A part of me want to please people. I just wanted to make things better, but I didn't know how to align my values and my actions. I was turning between two worlds. And you know, because I felt I know a bit about abuse, but you know, when you felt like I know about it, I know it's wrong. I'm not in denial that is happening, even though I went through a phase that I was thinking I wanted so badly to make it work because I believe in marriage. And I thought to myself, what can I just wanted all things, but and at the same time, I've gone through this phase before, and I knew that God could not do anything without the other person's consent. If that person is not willing, there is nothing God can do. So the owners, before I could make that decision, I was just like, I was feeling helpless. And I went for a church program in the process of where am I going to get a professional in Nigeria? Where am I going to get a professional? And I went for a church program. And hula, my coach came in to talk about domestic abuse and encouraging women to seek professional help and not just leaving it to God to handle without taking practical steps. And I thought, oh my God, where have you been? I've been looking for you. And then I took his number down quickly, sent him messages while I was in church, got home again at night. I sent messages. There was nothing. I couldn't sleep. 7 o'clock the next morning, I got a message back saying, meet me. This was 2017. Meet me here, in ShopRite. And that was it. The rest is history. I never looked back. I've been learning. I became a student of trauma myself. And I became a student of trauma. I keep learning. If I tell you, I've never stopped since then. It's just one after the other. And it is primitive to say that it's very important to invest in ourselves. The same knowledge, I think Miles Monroe said, the same knowledge of the same level of thinking that got us, I think probably is about Einstein, that said the same level of thinking that got us into that situation would not get us out of it. So we need to improve ourselves. We need to get new knowledge. We need to understand the cycle of abuse. A lot of times we're thinking it's all about me. It's all about me. If I can just make it better, if I can just do something to just make it better. No, it's not about you. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with what you have done. It's about the other person. It's about the other person.
Wow.
So that is not giving
Wow.
everything, but that is my story in
Right.
a
Thank
nutshell.
you. Thank you for that. But so you all had your light bulb moments and then you found a way of escape after going through all that. Truly amazing. It'd be nice to actually capture all this maybe in some kind of a documentary. There are people out there that definitely need to be hearing this. And thank you for opening up and sharing your stories as well. A couple of comments in the chat about people being enjoying the session. I know others will also enjoy it as they come on. I want to take this moment to just also speak to our audience and tell them that in the description below, there's a lot about Dr. Nova, Ronke, and Fumi. If you just go down the description, you would find they offer services. Now, it's good to go sit in a place and listen to somebody who theoretically has read all kinds of things. Good to read, but when you've got people who have been there and have found a way out, you really want to listen to them. It's worth more than all the financial investment you can make. The great thing is that they have programs available that you can benefit from. Some could be free, some for token sums that you can benefit. And in some cases, you can also drop them emails. You can visit their website. So just look down in the description below. You would find there's information about Dr. Nova. There's information about Ibironke John, and then also about Selective Fumi Adeumi in there. And please make sure you connect with them and don't keep it to yourself. There are so many people who are suffering in silence, and we need to be able to help all these people create a better world. So send the links to them so they can also benefit as well. I was just going to let us take a quick 30-second interlude in there before we continue the session. Right. Thank you again, ladies, for sharing there. I've got a couple of questions here. I think I want to come to the solutions bit because I'm sure people have heard a lot about your gripping stories. They can get the books, all your books as well. I've read them, and I can guarantee you can't read those books and remain the same, especially for those of you who are in one situation or other. So that it will certainly help you. Maybe one question before I go quickly to what kind of solutions. Why do some women stay in denial? I mean, I mean, forgive my saying so. I mean, for instance, when I was reading your book for me, I was literally kicking myself. What's she doing? I mean, you can see there's a problem there. You're still staying in it. What is it that makes people stay in a situation like that? Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Denial can be used for various reasons to different degrees. It can be used as a way of protecting yourself. It might be that you don't want to accept that it exists because the feeling that maybe the marriage is coming to an end or is on rocky ground is too painful for you to bear. It might be used as a way of minimizing the painful emotions. It might be a way of not wanting to confront the consequences. It can be used for different reasons. So for everybody, we use it as a form of avoidance because you might want to hide from pain, from shame, from blaming, you thinking, what would people say? So you don't want to deal with all that drama. You don't want to deal with the gravity of the consequences of what this might mean. You don't even want to because it's just too much for your brain to. And when you are going through abuse, you are in such a turmoil that is very stressful and it's taking over your entire being, your mind, your thinking, your reasoning, and you are dealing with that. And you for you at that moment, thinking there is no more marriage that the whole world you were celebrated that you were married, and we live in a society where marriage is seen as an achievement. Marriage is seen as an achievement. So for a lot of people to say I'm not married again is, I remember when I was in Nigeria, a lot of people would say, I'm not Mrs. anything. My name is Fumi. And I'm comfortable and I'm happy with that. My name is Fumi Adewumi. And they will say, Mrs. what? I'm not Mrs. anything. So we're in a society where a lot of people pride in being Mrs. somebody. And they can't actually describe themselves as who they are without the titles, the accolade of what you have achieved, what you have, achieved education-wise or maritally, or, all that. So you stripping yourself from all that can be very painful. You don't even want to confront that. Where am I going to start from? You that everybody knows as, when, especially in Nigeria, everybody knows you as Madam, Big Madam, you know, and how do you come and say you are not married, a single person? Single person are not respected in our community. Single person are not respected. So many things can make people avoid even thinking of acceptance. And also another point is it's a form of coping mechanism, because it might be too excruciating for you to compromise, to even imagine.
That's right.
And when we talk about shame or trauma, shame is a very deeply, extremely painful emotion that you don't want to. How would people? You don't even want to think about it. I had to write down some of my values and think of and start marking it one by one. What will people say? Who are the people? I wrote it down one by one and I started listening. Who are these people? How important are they in my life? What are they to me? What would they matter? What they say? I wrote it down because I was dealing with that shame that I don't want to, like, second. I didn't even think in my wildest dream that I will have one failed marriage, not to talk of two. So it's like, when we were young, when you see people and you hear people are married 3 times, it's like 3 times. You know what you how you class those kind of people. So I cannot imagine. I did not come from a broken home, so I cannot imagine myself. It's like second marriage failed. Where from? How did that come by? So it was difficult for me to comprehend in my head. So I had to come to terms with all that and write it down, name it, and say, what am I shameful for? What is it? Until I dealt with it, I wasn't ready to face it. But after dealing with it, it was easier for me to confront the world. I didn't care anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. Whatever anybody says, they are not important to my life. So there are so many reasons, and even there are so many inner conflicts that we deal with that it's difficult for us to manage. So a lot of times we repress it. We don't want to deal with reality. We want to assume it's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. God is going to make it, do the miracle, and it's going to change one day. So because it's so painful, you don't want to deal with it. So you repress it. You repress a lot of. So it's a way of managing our inner conflict.
That's right.
Another
Wow.
reason, I don't know. I'll give others time to. But there are so many reasons why we
Few reasons why people do that. I think I picked up a couple of things there. Part of it is the alternative, how people would be seen. So people would prefer to be in a marriage of so-called convenience when in actual fact it's one of hell or torture and things like that. But just so that the shame or you don't want to let parents down. Maybe you said you come from a good home and
that's another
everything else.
reason. Yeah.
Those could be issues that could affect people. Wow. Rather than maybe going on that, I just wanted to throw a question to you, Ronke, in the area of solutions to domestic abuse in general. Would you say better safeguarding, or is it counseling, or is it more education, or more punitive measures? What would, I guess this will relate to both the men and the women's side. What would you say?
In terms of preventing or dealing with domestic violence?
Reducing it or avoiding it?
I would say knowledge. I think what we're doing now, exposing
Right.
the whys, the don'ts, the difficulties. And I know you want us to move on to, but I just really feel it's important because you might have people here who have immigration problems, and some accommodation is the reason why they stay.
Okay.
They don't think they have access to any things, and that's only because of the work that I do. And I also think then going back to that, if people know more of what their rights are as well, you find out that more women will leave or more men will leave. Safeguard in terms of prevention and help and going through that process when when there's domestic violence or domestic abuse. Safeguarding and recognizing the laws of the Western countries. I think Nigeria, I don't know about Ghana, is catching up now, but there is a law for perpetrators who are caught abusing their wives now. But in England and the US and some other countries, there's also a law that protects children now. If children witness domestic violence, domestic abuse, they are seen as credible people that need to be protected. And therefore, it's no longer just the mother or making up the mind saying, well, I can manage it, I can bear it. No, your children cannot bear it. And the laws of England will protect those children. They demand that you protect the children. I think that is a kind of wake-up call for women who are struggling, who are being told by their relatives or their church or their mosque, don't leave, you can't leave, and things like that. Another thing is recognizing that there is help for anyone that is genuinely struggling with anger, relationship conflict, dealing with conflict and confrontation. And I think that's one of the greatest things, because domestic violence is happening increasingly amongst a younger generation. Date abuse now is happening. And a lot of it is that some of the younger people they've been brought up in families and homes, have been exposed to so much things themselves. But there is a lot of help that is available for them to access. If there's mental health problems, ill health problems, then they can access counseling. They can access so many things on the internet. So there are various programs of intervention that help people to deal with conflict, to deal with managing the anger, deal with their mental health, deal with if there's substance misuse, and also what you call honoring, what we call honoring the relationships. If someone has a high tendency to feel suspicious or jealous, and it's become an obsession, there's all sorts of interventions that can help with as a measurement. And also to say that many of the churches need to wake up and bring this onto the pulpits now. You do get some churches coming up very heavy, but not enough. And a lot of them still don't understand that the victims or the survivors have rights as well, and how they can help mediate between that. You know what I mean? Because you have one school of thought that says, well, it's a deliverance problem. No, let's unmask this problem. Whether you believe it's some auntie or uncle or grandmother in the woods doing something, this person has a will and has a choice. So I think I'm unpacking that myth, that why you might believe in 40 days fast. I mean, I was told that that's too long. If you fast for 40 days, he will change. Sorry, he didn't change. How's a cycle of abuse? So I think more of church coming to saying that, look, if you want to fast for 40 days, I couldn't even fast for 40 days anyway, with all the things that were going on. But if you want to do it, go and do it. You're welcome to do it. I think by the time we begin to break that open and realize that, look, that is not it. Binding and losing and counting, saying that is one auntie that is causing a spell and etc. I think once that myth is broken into, there'll be a lot of prevention, and there will be some solutions that will come forth, within Black and minority people.
Wow, thank you for the additional points you made there. And I was looking at the chat when you talked about church. I was looking at the chat, and I see Dr. Soji has put something in the chat there. And actually, maybe I'll just highlight that on our screen for us here. But he says so many reasons why people stay in abuse. Sadly, the church aren't always supportive, but rather judgmental. And it's something which has been of concern to me, which is why we have a program like Prime Focus, that sometimes things get over spiritualized, over culturalized, and there may be other solutions and things. Nova, can you, Dr. Nova, can you address this as a relationship catalyst? What change catalyst? How some of these can change? What advice you would give to institutions like that as well?
Yeah. Before I even go there, I'm going to do like Ronke and say that I just think we need to say some more things about why people stay. in
Right.
abuse.
Okay.
And the reason why that is important is because many times we're quick to tell people solutions, and you can hear the solutions, but if you don't believe it's for you, then you wouldn't take it.
Right.
And so
Okay.
there are so many reasons why people stay in abuse, because they haven't really identified or realized that what they are experiencing is abuse. And so if you think in the book Time to Go, there I talk about it from two perspectives, right? The abuser keeps you in abuse, and then you, the victim, stay in abuse. The abuser keeps you in abuse by isolating you. So you used to have a lot of friends, now you don't have a lot of friends no more, and you didn't even realize when it happened, because slowly over time. The coercion is another thing as well, getting you to sometimes even do things, say things, act in a certain way that is not normal for you, or telling people that you've done certain things, threatening you and intimidating you. They're doing all of these things. And so you, as somebody who is since you asked about church going, people who are religious especially, they believe that certain scriptures, those scriptures are all of a sudden amplified to them. So wives must love and honor, and they begin to even embellish the scripture, and serve your husband and see him as the Lord over you, and stuff. And another thing that men can use a lot of times is children. What kind of mother are you? If you say you're going, or I'm going to keep the children, or yeah, children would see what it is, what a good wife does not look like when they look at you. Denial is another thing. A man could always say, "You're talking rubbish. I'm not hitting you," as I think it was Runke or Selective Fumi said that. "I'm not hitting you. I'm not doing certain things to you, so I'm not abusing you." So that even goes into either denial or minimalizing things. So you're in church, you love your husband, you love God, but the way that your husband is treating you, or even on the other side, where a wife is treating a man like that, the way that they're treating you is not the way that is makes you feel loved, valued, and cherished. And so you have to begin to realize, am I being, as I said, isolated? Is a lot of coercion going on? Is this person threatening and intimidating me all the time? Are they using the children to say you must stay because of your children? Or I remember my ex used to say, nobody else would love you. By the time I finish with you, you would be unrecognizable. Or yeah, I'm doing you a favor being with you. And I remember my ex, he could be so sweet at when he wants to have sex. As soon as the sex finish, you're ugly. I regret the day I married to you. You're ruining my life. This is somebody, as I said, who was going around praying and stuff for people. And so people um valued him as somebody who could speak into their lives. Yeah. Shifting blame. It's not me, it's you. So the victim feels as though what he's saying, he might have a point. And if as a victim there's any ounce of truth in it, any ounce, even if it's 1%, you begin to think to yourself, they have a point, and you begin to amplify that you are wrong and they are right. Degrading and of course emotional abuse. On the other side, the victim stays because fear of being alone. They feel like they have too much invested in this thing. So even though you think enough is enough, you think to yourself, you know what, if I leave all the money I spend on this and the time that I've put in and the effort, what would people say? What do people think? Beginning to normalize what they're doing to me is not that bad compared to what other people going through. So you see something on the news, even though you begin to empathize, all of a sudden you begin to say, you know what, they're experiencing worse than me, so I could stay. A lot of times the victim as well wouldn't seek any help. So you're having a problem, you know you have a problem, somebody point out to you have a problem, you might decide in your heart today, I'm going to seek help, and then tomorrow, because of fear, because of other reasons, you stay. Again, the victim would stay because of the children as well. I want the children to be close to their dad and stuff. If you're saying any of these things in your mind, begin to stop and think and get in touch with somebody and begin to just tell them about what your marriage, what your relationship is like, and see. I'm talking about an expert, not just going to a pastor or something, because they're a minister, unless they have, that they understand what domestic abuse and domestic violence is. But talk to somebody about your story and hear if that person is saying what you're experiencing, what you're going through is right and normal. Go to a professional and ask that. embarrassment as well, culture and religion. So having said all of those things, because those are the things I've written in the book, if we get back to me zoom in on the church, as somebody already pointed out, pastors have a lot to answer for. And I think when if we use the term that people say, when they get to the pearly gates, some of them will be told to turn right around and get back down, because they didn't, before you help to bring people in, you were really causing them to feel like if they're not worthy, you're not worthy to be loved and valued in the way that you should be. What the man is giving you, and you know what people say, when you got into it, you said till death us do part, which means that he could end up killing you, or you were the one that made the choice, or what God put together. That's the biggest one, what God put together. You know, my grandmom was a very powerful woman of God. And one day, a couple, they were going to get married or something, and the Lord said to her, I didn't put them together. No, they were talking to everybody about us getting married, and we're so glad we found that. And the Lord said, I didn't put them together. Not everybody who get married I put together. And that's important, because we can say God, 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 because nobody, a lot of times you can't turn to the side and say, God, answer openly so everybody can hear. Do you understand? So you say God, you say a lot of things about God that God himself saying, I didn't say it. You understand? And so we get married, you walk down the aisles, and because you see them doing that, you believe that God has something to do with it, and it doesn't. So we have to be careful about that. The next thing is, you have to also think, if the pastors themselves are not educating themselves, if you as a member of the church, you know what is right, and you don't take opportunities, you don't have to do it in line with the church. Like me, I don't care if the church that I attend to believe what I'm saying or not. I have done the research, I have my own experience, I open my mouth and I say what I know to be the truth. Because when people die, and I know that they died because of abuse, or they continue to take to be abused and to accept it, and I know it's going on and I say nothing, their blood is on my shoulder. Each one of us have a responsibility as men and women of God. You're sitting in your own home taking crap, man from woman, woman from man. And as I say, so much types of abuse that people take. And when you take, and nobody is saying anything, or if somebody says something, somebody else in the church could come and say, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, find the person privately and talk to them. Say, go and just ask a professional. This is, I think, the most important thing. Encourage them. Talk to somebody who knows anything about marriage, and ask, and just tell them your story, and to find out if this is normal or not. That's as basic as you could get it. If it is normal, fantastic. You carry on with your life rejoicing. If they're saying some of these things are not right, then you could encourage a person to begin to look at it. But plenty of times we send them to the pastor, we send them to ministers, and these people, they are not educated. And so, in fact, some of them are abusing their spouses. And they are the ones that are telling you, stay. And so we have to be very careful in the church when it comes to that. Each one of us have a responsibility.
Awesome. Hard things being said, but they need to be said. And so thank you to Selective Fumi and to Ronke and Dr. Nova on that. Let's come back to the issue of, we only have a few minutes to go here. Come to the issue of ways people can be supported. And Nova, I like just picking your point as a summary point there, that enough is a lot is not being done, or it's not enough what the sources that people go to. So they need to be aware of other things. In what ways can victims be supported? And then I would also through that's to all of you, but then Ronke, I'd also throw you the question, how can perpetrators or abusers actually be helped as well? I know you probably have some programs and things, so you can speak to that as well. And when you're speaking, Nova first, and then for me, and then I'll come to you, Ronke, on that point.
Which aspect do you want me to address?
In terms of support and how, I mean, I know you do a couple of things that can help people as well, or what you point them to. So maybe if you can talk on that in general, and then your programs as well. Yes.
Yeah. Well, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. As men and women, we are in a world today where knowledge is at our fingertips. Even whether your abuser is wrong or not, there are some things that you can do, but far more for when they're away from you for some time. You have your phone, you have a lot of times when you can be by yourself and look at your phone. Go on YouTube, begin to educate yourself. If you want to buy a book, you can, but something like YouTube, you could look at it. If you use incognito in Chrome, in any one of those browsers, then they don't have to know what you looked at. If you use, I think it's DuckDuckGo, so DuckDuckGo.com, and then you search for anything, nobody knows the history of what you search for. Begin to educate yourself. If you're doing it and it's not, you're thinking, I don't need it, think there's somebody else who I could share this information with, that it would be able to help them. And so just that's the lowest I could go to tell them, you just begin to read, begin to find out what is abuse. What is abuse? What are the forms of abuse? What are the methods of abuse that people use? You find out these little things, then your eyes will be open. When people talk about the ideas that comes from the mind, the ideas, great ideas, come from the mind when the mind has a lot of information. Otherwise, you come up with something and then somebody say, yeah, we've been doing that already for 10 years. And then you realize you know nothing or you know very little. Educate yourself.
Okay.
Educate, you have no excuse. So for me, in terms of what I have to offer, there's a course that I have on Udemy, same title of the book, Time to Go. And also they could go on Amazon as well and get the book Time to Go. If they want to get in touch, I'm sure the NREX will put all the information. Just get in touch, but get help. Don't stay where you are. You have no reason to feel like you're isolated. We're here to help where we can.
Thank you so much for that. Just a quick one, Novel. When you're talking about the incognito and all that, I guess it's because I think I've seen that on. I scanned through your program. Is because you need a safe space to do some stuff, just in case maybe you are being monitored and things like that. That's why it's good to do those things. Otherwise, you could get yourself in trouble.
100%, 100%.
Right.
Because
Yes, that's
if
correct.
you have a
Okay.
psychotic abuser, they'll be looking at everything that you're doing. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, selected for me. Let me come to you then. Yes.
Okay, thank you for
In terms
having
of
me again.
yes, what? Yeah.
I would say that we all have a mobile phone. Start from your mobile phone. This is where I started. Put in Google, put in what you are experiencing, what you're feeling, anything, just put it in. It will give you tons and tons of information. Even if you don't want to speak to anybody, start from your phone. You will be enlightened. Power in, we cannot overemphasize this. Educate, educate, educate. Invest in yourself. I thought I knew about abuse, but when I started researching, and you will see that you are not alone. You are not alone. It's happened to the best of people. So you are not alone. Get information, educate yourself. If you are in this climb, every local authority, council, they have a DV service. They have a domestic abuse service in every local authority. There are women's aid, refuge, STR, tons of them in every locality. Even if you don't want to go to professional, call the National Domestic Helpline. The number is 0808 2000 247. Contact them and just someone will listen to you. Someone will hear you out. It doesn't matter. You know, sometimes your friends get tired of you talking. Speak to a professional. You don't have to give your identity. A lot of people have the fear of they don't want to expose their partners. They don't want to, so they're fearful. They're thinking maybe they don't have papers, maybe they don't, for different reasons. They're thinking they don't want to be the one to break the marriage. So that if you don't want to give information about the alleged perpetrator, you don't have to. But for you, you need to seek help. You need to see what is available to you. And even if you don't want to, go to government organizations, there are tons of charity. They will maintain confidentiality. They don't have to share the details you have shared with them. Speak to charity organizations. If you don't want to go down that route, you can contact any one of us. You can contact me on, I have a listening here. I have a charity community interest organization that supports women going through abuse and with mental health. So you can contact me. And if you are going through abuse and you want a copy of my book, you can send me a message and you can get it for free. So there are tons of information out there. So there is no excuse for anybody. There are programs available, freedom program available in every local authority. Freedom program is available. Own My Life programs for victims of domestic abuse. It's everywhere. And I have one coming up soon that I'm going to be doing like every 6 weeks, program for people that are going through abuse. So if you don't want to go to local authority, you can contact me just to hear you out and to give you a safe space where you can just express what you're going through.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for also the resources that both of you have explained to us and where you can get it, including yours. I'll put up the National Domestic Abuse Helpline up in a minute. But Ronke, your closing thoughts on this. I mean, how can you can help people? And then also the question of how can abusers or perpetrators be helped as well?
Okay, so supporting a survivor, if you are experiencing any of the things or more than what we said, know that you can approach somebody who will not judge you. You will not be judged, because that's one of the things that people think about, that they will be judged. And if you are supporting somebody, take that person seriously. Don't judge. Don't try to control. Like we've already said, there's always a process between a person realizing that they are being abused to making a decision to what to go. But for someone who is in it and who is what we call a survivor right now, learn and remember from what we said, your worth. Is that how you want to live and die? You are worth much more than that. And if you don't think of yourself, think of your children, your loved ones. For myself, a friend had to tell me that if you don't value yourself, what about your 3 children? That they will see this and it will affect them. It's already affecting. You can minimize the damage. And for anybody who's in it and making up their mind, they're contemplating, but you're thinking about maybe you have joint bank accounts. I know that Nova's book and the program she has she's a very good resource for that, because there are also banks that can help you. All the interwoven things. Yes, there are rights that you have in the UK and I believe in America and maybe other European countries. If you have a house that is joint mortgage, you can still get help if you're not working, paying with DWP, that Department of Work and Pensions, can help pay towards your rent in a second home. They did that to me eventually. They've done it to some few people that I'm also supporting right now. Because you could be a homeowner and you have to leave the home. Maybe his name is on this, or it's just unsafe right now. So there's all sorts of help available. And like we said, educate and make yourself and make yourself available. And also believe your friends. Maybe you are showing signs and you're not recognizing your resilience. And Black people tend to think that Black don't crack, but we're cracking on the inside. So don't say, well, my mothers and the generations went through that, it's not affecting me. No, it's wearing you out bit by bit, wearing out your self-worth, your strength, your energy. Now, for the person who is already in it, maybe you're the abuser or you're both, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you have people that are doing both, okay? You have all sorts of funny relationships. get the help that you need. I would say that there are professional help, there are books, there are journals, there are agencies. You've heard from me talk about what she does. I'm sure she could signpost you. I do a lot of work as well. My website is there. My email is there. Contact us. There are also other national helplines, like you've got one called the Refuge National Helpline or organization. You've got mental health charities. You've got Mind. You've got so many resources to know, to say that you can say, look, I'm struggling. I'm having an anger. There's, it's anger, but also recognize that everybody has the emotion called anger, and it's not wrong. It's when we use it to hurt other people, ourselves, then it becomes wrong. And that's why we talk about anger management. Now, if you are already being pursued by the police or by social services, any family here listening to this, I'm going to say, if you are the mother or the father, and maybe it's your spouse that is abusive, take it seriously. You do not want your children taken from you. Social services do not have the power to just come and take your children without any reason nowadays, okay? They've got a bad history, but now with the laws and things, they can't just jump into your house. They want to actually keep families together. And if you are already contacting social services, or you're the police, the domestic violence unit, and you don't think, or the women's safety, and not doing enough, continue to get, contact other organizations, because we do know that they're inundated with calls right now. They're inundated with work. And don't let your dialect, don't let your intonation, because I've heard of some few cases whereby the person thought they were not communicating what was going on, and their case wasn't taken seriously. Get a friend to support you. But if you are someone that has been abusive as well, then know that there's help that you can get, and that without that, that is not a loving relationship. That is not the way to show love to anyone. There are no excuses. You may have reasons, but there are no excuses. Yes, and if you have probation, sometimes, okay, can I just say one more thing? Because actually, I have a case that I was supporting of someone. I don't know where they're on, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind me talking about it. So I invited them. The man was already abusing the wife from Nigeria to England, would beat her even when she was pregnant. The mother came, and she one day, for once, she intervened. Normally she would just to the daughter, manage. But this time she said to the man, it was so bad, because even I can say, because let's just expose the things that can happen. He would use the toilet, he wouldn't flush it. He would say, you go and do it. That's who you are. You're just that, just all sorts of things to bring her down. You understand? But this day the mother stood up and said, this is getting awful. There are all sorts of things he did and said. The mother intervened and said no. So the daughter went to work. When she went to work, the police called her that the mother had been taken to hospital because the neighbors had been called. He had beat the mother horribly. It wasn't just beat, he tortured the mother. Okay? And she ended up in hospital. And she was scared to even tell the police what her daughter had been witnessing, exposed to, because she thought they would take the children away, or he would be able to get to where she was working. So at that instant, she didn't tell the police everything. She just but she had no choice, because the neighbor was the one that called the police, who heard what was going to hold the thumbs of crying, and also had seen the daughter get beaten up before. So what I want to say to you is that the law is on your side, either way. So if you know you have a problem, get help. And if you know you've been someone that's been subject to that, get the help. The law is not against survivors. The law is there, and the police are being trained. The police are being told to be aware of trauma and what trauma looks like, even for Black and Asian people.
Wow, this has been so insightful. I mean, I'm thinking I've learned so much myself. I thought I'd done a lot of reading, but I've learned so much from each one of you on some of the different, immigrational issues I wouldn't have thought about. And even when you don't have money, because somebody will say, if I leave, where am I going? And things like that. But thank you for addressing these issues. We have run out of time, actually, but I want to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Nova, and to you, Ronke, and also to Fumi. This has been a phenomenal session. And again, thank you for sharing from your heart. I know you're passionate about things, not just because you specialize in it or you thrive in it, but because of where you're coming from and you feel the pain of other people, and so you can best tell these stories. And I hope our audience would also agree with me on this, and make sure that you share it with other people so they can also benefit from the things here. Once again, I want to emphasize the resources that are being made available. I have read those books. You need to read the books, buy them for somebody. If you want to do it anonymously, please go ahead and do that as well. But also access the resources, because the resource will definitely help you. Yes, there are things which have been said about going on YouTube, using your phone, documenting these, because those things will help you one day. Or if not even you, it will help somebody else. So take advantage. Just look in the description and you can find the different ways to reach each and every one of our guests. To our guests, I want to say a big thank you again. Right. Okay. There's a quick question here. Can someone in domestic violence get support from the UK if they are living outside the UK? I want to think the answer would be no, if it's depending on UK resources, but I'll leave you, any one of you, maybe Fumi or Ronke, to answer that. I would probably say that there could be resources, maybe if you check in countries, there can be resources available. But of course, empowering yourself will be the best. Any response from any of you?
I would say that can contact some of the people, maybe some of us or people that work have
Right.
resources online. You can
Mhm.
contact anybody online, but not organizations, because their funding is for people that live in UK.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Yes, I think reach out to, this is your opportunity, everyone, and to anyone that you send the links to or you tell about the program, please let them reach out to these wonderful, experienced ladies.
National organizations that you may be able to get more advice.
Okay.
They call them, I forgot the name right now. MO, I can't remember the name just gone from my mind. So there might be some that kind of can give you more advice as to what you can do and where you can go. So, but it is by looking at the internet that you can get that
Okay.
information.
Thank you very much. And I know the audience has enjoyed it. I can see great comments from several people, including Dr. Soji. Shola has put something there. The church should be doing more. Yes, we've talked about that. And this is why we have discussions like this. Well done, all. Very educative, insightful session. Yes, thank you, audience, as well. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel and you share this with other people. There are people living in the dark and they need to come into the light. Thank you again to our panelists, and thank you for our audience as we bring today's session to a close.